Don't look now, but Dan Lanning and the Ducks are on an absolute heater, looking to land their second top 3 class in 2 years. Got a massive commitment from 5-star wide receiver Dakorien more on the 4th of July, standing on fireworks. But what does this momentum mean long-term for the Ducks? Like when we look down the road here 3, 4, dare I say 5 years, what can we take from this instance of Oregon recruiting and what it means for the future? We'll talk about it right now, but Oregon fans, lock in right here, baby. We got media days right around the corner. We're talking college football all year long. If you've been dialed in with us throughout the course of, I guess, this offseason, we would call it, then you already know that. But if you just found this show, welcome. We talk college football every single day. We're live on the air 3 times a week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, but content coming for you all the time. So lock in here and also follow me on the social channels at JD Pickell, Instagram and on Twitter. We appreciate you for that. So let's start with Dakorien Moore. And I think a lot of people are going to be very quick to say, well, they just threw a bag at him. It was NIL, it was this, it was that. And I'm not here to tell you that I have definitive knowledge as to what the NIL prospects were for a Dakorien Moore. But I will say, I don't think you commit to a player like Dakorien Moore's caliber. I don't think you commit to a school without having some kind of path forward to go reach your ultimate destination, which is the NFL. And Oregon has proof of concept now for playmakers. Like, look at what they did last season. Both Tez Johnson and Troy Franklin were 1,000-plus yard wide receivers. That's proof of concept. And we're seeing that pay off now through the transfer portal. Who'd they go out and get? Evan Stewart, the top wide receiver in the whole freaking transfer portal, if you ask me. Now they go out and land Dakorien Moore from the state of Texas. And so you're seeing now that Oregon, it's no longer this pitch of, hey, come here and maybe you can accomplish something for the first time. It's, hey, come be a part of what we've been doing now, really since Dan Lanning got there, especially last season with what they put on tape and what they have at the quarterback position also probably helps quite a bit going forward. But from a macro level, what does this mean for Oregon? I think when I saw this commitment hit my notifications on Twitter, I think the first thought I have is Oregon is somewhere between changing the game and then the sign of the game changing, if that makes sense. Because when we look at the way that recruiting used to look, there was, I think, a pretty heavy importance, and still a heavy importance, placed on geography and proximity to talent. Like, there's no way around that. If you are closer to the top prospects in the country, that's going to help you and equip you in building relationships with those top prospects. Relationships is still the name of the game. And Oregon, I believe, and from what we're understanding now, pushed very hard in the relational category to be the choice for Dakorien Moore when it came time for him to give his verbal commitment. However, as much as proximity matters, I don't think it's ever mattered less when it comes to recruiting. Because there's this tractor beam effect now that Oregon has, from brand to what they have with that O and that Nike check, proof of concept, what they've done in 2 years under Dan Lanning, momentum, resources, all those things Oregon has in spades. And in the NIL landscape and in the expanded college football playoff era, like being able to pitch that to a recruit and prioritizing pitching that to a recruit, getting out on the private jet and going and seeing these recruits at an elite clip, like that matters, that adds up. And I think that is ultimately a major factor in why you're seeing Oregon recruit at the level they're recruiting at right now. If I'm a college football fan, I'll take that back. If I'm an Oregon fan, direction of this program is what fires me up the most. Because you love landing big-time 5-star wide receivers. You love having a big-time class as we sit here in July. But ultimately, that's just direction. It doesn't actually equate to wins necessarily. It helps win football games, but it's direction. It's pointing the arrow towards where they're headed. And you look at the other things that Oregon has going in their favor outside of where this class stands right now. They landed a top 3 class last season. The year before that, they had another top 10 class. Right now, Dan Lanning has only 5 losses on his resume to 3 coaches. One of them being Jonathan Smith, which Oregon eventually avenged this past season. The other being to Kirby Smart, his first ever game at Oregon with Dan Lanning. And the other's been to Kalen DeBoer, who's played for a national championship last season. Here's the thing now. Dan Lanning is going into his 3rd season being a head coach. So for him to have recruited at the level he's recruiting right now, for him to coach at the level he's coaching at, for them to win at the level they're winning at, it's only year 3. So if this is the jumping off point, where's the arrow pointing? To me, I think the arrow is pointing nowhere but up, if I'm an Oregon fan. That should excite me. A lot of people are going to say this too. But, you can recruit, but, in game, how is he? And they're going to point to the fourth down stuff with Washington and all that. And that's your prerogative. You're entitled to your own opinion. But again, it's been 2 years. It's only been 2 years. What he is today as a head coach is going to be very different than what he is 5 years from now. And for the record, I said it after the game. I'll say it again. I had zero issue with the in-game decision-making he had in those games. Hindsight's 2020. So what does it mean big picture? I think a lot of folks think about Oregon, and they think about them being a good story on the West Coast, maybe watching their games after bedtime, the fun uniforms, all those things. They're the Nike school that, they factor into a degree, but they're kind of one of those teams that's just fun to root for. They're a good story. Marcus Mariota put them on the map at one point in time. That's what some people think about when they think about Oregon. Now, I'm here to tell you, Oregon's not just a disruptor in this space right now. Oregon is a real force in modern college football. Oregon's not going anywhere. And I'll take it a step further. If Oregon and Dan Lanning continue to acquire talent in the fashion that they are, landing top 3-ish classes, landing, for my money, one of the best portal classes this past cycle, they're, I believe, only a matter of time before they win a national championship under Dan Lanning. And what I said on my socials, at JD Pickell, another reason to follow me, after they got this commitment, I told y'all that I believe within the next 5 years, if Dan Lanning keeps recruiting this way, keeps adding talent this way, keeps building in the fashion they're building, I think they're going to win a national championship. Because recruiting at a high level is nice. Recruiting is obviously a massive ingredient to winning at the highest level. It's all about the Jimmies and the Joes. But I don't think it's not just in a vacuum, Oregon's got a X-ranked class. Oregon landed a 5-star wide receiver. That's all well and good, but I think we've got to look at the context. And that's the big thing for me with recruiting. Who are you finishing ahead of? Who are you lifting with, for lack of a better term? In college football, they put you in lifting groups, and whoever you're grouped in with, typically that strength coach has gone through your maxes and other players' maxes, and they put you in a category with those players to where you're all lifting similar, numbers. Look at who's in Oregon's group. Oregon last year finished number 3 in the country in the On3 industry team recruiting rankings in 2024. Only schools ahead of them, Georgia and Alabama. Those two teams are consistently competing for national championships. So Oregon last year was ahead of schools like Ohio State, ahead of schools like Texas, who made the college football playoff. This year, look at who they're lifting with. They're within range of an Ohio State and Alabama. They're lifting with the Georgias. They're lifting with the LSUs, like the creme de la creme of college football, those big brands we consistently see competing for top talent. Oregon's not just like, a fringe team. They're in that group. That is who they are as strong as right now, if we're going to go ahead and use that metaphor. Now, last thing I'll say here. A lot of folks are going to be very quick to say, well, Oregon's fun to hype up because of their brand, because of the uniforms, because they're easy to get behind in that sense. I've seen this before. I've seen this kind of Oregon hype before, then they fall short. No, we haven't. We've seen Oregon have, a strong preseason outlook. I'm talking about beyond 2024. I'm talking about 2027, 2028. Because Dan Lanning, he didn't leave for that Bama job. And if you don't leave for the Bama job, I don't know what job you leave for. And there's going to be a lot of people in the comment section saying, well, did he ever get offered the job? It sounds like he shut it down before it even got to that point. So I don't know the ins and outs of that, but I'm just saying, if Dan Lanning had wanted to leave for a different job, there have been plenty of good options, and he stayed in Eugene. So with him staying, with the resources, with the momentum, with the way they acquire talent, we haven't seen this kind of Oregon before. They are a different animal, in some sense the same beast, and I think they're going to be a problem for the rest of the college football landscape. So we'll talk more about this tomorrow on the Hard Count, live 11 a.m. Eastern. Get dialed in, jump in the live chat. We'll have a good time. Follow me on Instagram and on Twitter at JD Pickell. We'll tweet out alerts whenever the show goes live, and also just our thoughts as we continue to roll on towards the beautiful thing that is college football season. Hey, love y'all. Appreciate y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling, and we will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.